Okay, so as you can see, I can still using the the PPT style of the UAB because I still consider myself as part of the UAB, and I will probably we are just waiting for the signature from the rectors of the UAB and UVigo. So I'll be with you for the next 5 years as associated researcher and affiliated researcher to the department. Okay, so this is like an overview of the project. This is an H2020 project, one of the probably the last goals of the H2020 projects. That is probably some of you knows that the European Union is in the phase of transition to a new framework program. So some essential facts and figures about the project. The budget of the project is around 3.6 million euros. We have 14 partners, as you can see here in the map. We have a lot of partners from Africa, which is very exciting. We have the best university in terms of ranking in Africa, which is the University of Cape Town. And in particular, we are going to collaborate with the Graduate School of Business of the University of Cape Town. So we have 5 universities from Europe, 2 European Research Center. We have a public European agency, which is the Agència de Residus de Catalunya. And we have 2 African NGO, 2 African university, and 1 small medium enterprise from Italy. So as you can see, it's a very diverse group of people with a lot of talent and you know, a lot of potential to deliver high quality academic research. So this is the project targeted breakthrough. So this is the way I like to present the projects, right? In a couple of sentences. So the project is going to focus on the notion of circular economy, but I would like to say, I like to call it like an updated version of circular economy, and we will see in a moment why. The idea is to, in my presentation, the idea is to just show you what is the background of the project by showing you what we are talking about when we talk about circular economy. You know, why we are calling circular economy in opposition to a linear economy, and why for us, as or at least for the main people that are behind the proposal, the notion of circular economy, at least as presented by the European Union, is quite problematic. And finally, I will present how our project intends to address these problems, right? I don't know if Florina is recording. Otherwise, I will. Okay.
Yes, I am.
I will move on. So the idea of the project started by a very concrete reflection about the linear economy. No, as we know, we are living in a linear economy. Our economy, the way we produce stuff, the way we distribute products and services, is very much a linear way. Why it's linear? Because basically what we do is we extract natural resources from the earth, we move it around, so we transform materials using energy and labor, and eventually we consume stuff, no? And then all the things that we produce end in the landfill, right? So the whole process is a process in which we extract resources from the earth and we produce waste, right? And here I put the sum of the, you know, the main combination through which we develop this process, right? How this process is possible. Basically, it's possible because we have some capital. So if you are from, if you look at from an economic perspective, this is something that is not surprising. So we use fixed capital that of course becomes obsolete. So we need to replace and reproduce the capital. And then we have labor, and then we have natural resources. So classical combination, classical economical perspective, no? So we combine all these factors and we produce something. Now, what is the problem with this model? The problem is that this model, despite the fact that has allowed us to deliver an unprecedented level of economic growth and at least in some part of the world, unprecedented level of well-being, is deeply destructive. It's destructive in terms of the ecosystem impact, is destructive in terms of of life. For example, here you have some picture of the problems that this linear economy is causing. No, like we don't know how to manage our disposal, how to dispose our waste. We are killing biodiversity. We have problem in city. For example, this is a sewage in London that is full of tissue, no, of wet tissue. We are also wasting a lot of food. So the system is if you look at the system in detail, we also discover that the system is profoundly inefficient. So as you can see here in this quick overview of indicators, all the good indicator, positive indicators, like for example, the GDP growth, foreign direct investments, consumption level, GDP per income per capita, are directly connected with increasing negative impacts. So here we have oxide emission, nitrogen oxide in the atmosphere, ocean acidification, all sorts of like negative impact, right? So as you can see here, the patterns are exactly the same, right? So you have an increase in GDP that we can discuss about that, but most of people will consider a good things is reflected, is mirrored in exactly similar pattern to negative impact on nature. In addition to that, we can say also that what we are, the good things, at least the things that we consider to be the good things about this linear economy, that we can also call it capitalism economy. I don't really like to label it as a capital economist, because a linear economy is perfectly possible under socialist or under communist or under this dictatorship, under any kind of economic system. The linear economy, so the supposed advantages of the linear economy, like the supposed efficiency of a linear economy, if you look at a little bit more closely, we can easily dismiss it. For example, I give you an example of three aspects, three sectors that for me are crucial to understand this. Mobility. It's been calculated that 92% of the time that the cars that we are using in Europe and North America are parked. We know that when we move, we usually, for one car, we use one car to bring only 1.5 people at the time, so extremely inefficient. And of course, there is the problem of accidents, that 30,000 lives are lost in accidents, at least in Europe. If you look at the construction sector, we are experimenting similar level of inefficiency. 30% of the waste sent to the landfill in Europe originates from construction. Office in our city are occupied only during the between 40 and 50% of the day, of the working day. And this is a figure that shocked me. In Europe, we have 11 million empty homes. That means that's in a city like Barcelona, there are people struggling to pay the rents, that they are increasing and they are unaffordable. And in Spain, we have, I don't know the exact number, but we have around 1 million empty house, right? So the system is deeply inefficient. And then food, which is also like a shameful. We can observe shameful figures. More than 100 million tons of food lost annually in Europe. And 50% of this loss occurs during the production chain. 97% of global food residue is sent to the landfill. So the system is deeply inefficient, right? And of course, this is causing all sorts of problems, like a huge soil degradation for the abuse of pesticide, of fertilizing, and so on. And all this system, at least we designed this system since the Second World War, the post-war, to the objective to increase economic growth, because we are convinced that maximizing economic growth will maximize also well-being and will create jobs, right? And this works, I would say, until probably the decade of the 70s and probably at the beginning of the 80s. But now, at least from the second part of the 2010, we see that not even economic growth is provided by the system. So the linear economy model is not even able to produce and deliver economic growth. So my question is this growth that everybody is pursuing is really achievable, right? So what the reply? What are the causes? Of course, we can debate for days or probably for weeks. Let's see. Let's just point at two major conceptual problem behind this idea of linear economy. The first one is that the system, the linear economy, that in this case we can call it capitalism, but again, a similar system is possible also in other political regimes. The linear economy needs waste, right? Capitalism needs waste. And Joseph Schumpeter in the 30s used to say that innovation is an essential fact of capitalism. But Karl Marx already, like 1 century before, said that waste is an essential fact of capitalism. Because capitalism and the linear economy needs expansion to flourish, right? In order to thrive, economy needs to produce more stuff. And so if we produce stuff that last forever, we cannot sell anymore. So we need to produce stuff that can be disposed as fast as possible, right? So let's say that the production of waste is an essential part of the linear economy. So what is the solution? The European Union and not only the European Union, but also a consortium of company enterprises in Europe and North America, around 10 years ago, recycled some ideas that were initially developed by the discipline of industrial ecology. Industrial ecology looked at how it's possible to combine production of technology or products and services with the environment, right? So 10 years ago, this notion of circular economy got mainstream, right? And probably the most visible actor behind this idea of circular economy is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a British foundation that is very active in the promotion of this idea of circular economy. So what circular economy means and what is the relationship with industrial ecology? Industrial ecology basically was based in the 70s on this idea that production of goods and services must copy nature. So in nature, you don't have production of waste. Everything is recycled. So we receive energy from the sun. Then there are vegetable plants that grow, animal eats the growth, and then all the waste of the system is continually recycled in closed loop system. So industrial ecology look at how it's possible to transform this linear economy in this closed loop system. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, this is probably the most famous graph, the most famous visualization of the circular economy. So the idea of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation of circular economy is an idea of a closed loop system that are interconnected in each other. So we have production of stuff basically, that are continually are producing material that are continually recycled to produce new stuff, right? And in all this process, of course, there is some loss of energy, and some part of the material will ended up in the landfill. So that the idea is to minimize this quantity of energy that is lost in this material that end up in the landfill. But the whole idea is really to create like a series of set of a number of closed loop system to minimize the use of resources. So this is like a summary of what in theory, in principle, a circular economy must be. So it's based on the theoretical concept which aims at creating an industrial system that is restorative by intention, where material value is maximized. So money creation, maximization of GDP is so that the GDP is maximized, whereas the waste generation is minimized, right? So, and then there are like complementary ideas like a lower dependence on the import, economic growth, of course, and job creation. So the idea is to move all this linear economy into a circle, right? So the fundamental idea here is not very different from the idea of sustainable developments. So the basic idea is that we need economic growth. So we need to increase the capability of people to buy more stuff and to consume more, but at the same time, we have to take care of the environment. So we have to reach a compromise between economic developments and environmental and social resilience, right? On the paper, this looks fantastic, right? But I don't think it is so fantastic, at least as its promoter presented. Why? So I will focus my criticism on 4 points. I don't know how much time I have. I will try to keep within 30 minutes.
Around 20 minutes you have left.
Okay, so probably we will have time to discuss these 4 points and then the objective of the project. Our first criticism is in the project is that circular economy neglects the basic law of thermodynamics. The second point is that a circular economy doesn't question the imperative for endless economic growth that we as a consortium question radically. We don't think that economic growth is going to be possible and not even necessary for achieving a shared well-being of humanity on the planet. Third, that circular economy is too much focused on technology. So it's proposing what I call the technocratic imaginary. And fourth, circular economy doesn't question unfair social relations like gender relation, labor relation, and geopolitics. Let's quickly go through each one of these points. The first point is that, well, this is a very common criticism, and if you are familiar with the work of people of ICTA in the UAB, like Joan Martinez Alier, or the principle of ecological economics, you definitely know that the economy is an open system that cannot be circular, right? Economy is based on energy and material flows to function, not on money. So basically, we can create infinite money, but we cannot create infinite energy, right? There are limits. The limits are the energy produced by the sun. So eventually all our economic process depends on the energy that is coming from the sun and from the materials, the resources, the raw materials that we extract from the land, right? So there are some limits. So the idea is that you can't recycle energy. When you use energy to produce something, this energy is lost forever, right? So there is a fundamental limit in this circle that we will need always new energy to feed this circle. And of course, there are limits to the material of recycling too. And we can recycle, for example, this glass, we can recycle plastic, but each time we recycle the material, the quality of the recycled material will not be the same of the raw material. So there are some limits there in the implementation of circular physical limits. And then even under an ideal circular economy cannot grow forever, because this is, if you look at this image of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the circle, you can see here that there's still some residual waste. And at the best situation is that the best calculation is that we can reach a minimum of residual waste that is around 26%. So if we want this economy to grow, as the European Union, as the major, the mainstream economists preaches that we need economic growth, we will not minimize, well, we will not put this number to zero. So this number will increase in absolute terms. And also the raw material that we need to extract from land will increase. So circular economy in the ways is promoted by this actor is physically very unlikely to occur in the future. And then if you look at the people who are funding, so that the people who are putting money into the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, you can recognize people here like groups, industrial groups that are not probably like famous for being sustainable or to be their activity are not definitely compatible with the sustainable development. So you find here like a multinational corporation like Solvay, a Unilever, or financial group like BlackRock. So the suspicious here is that the circular economy, at least in this version, is pretty much a way to keep going on this, on business as usual, so to maintain the status quo. Then my third criticism, the fact that circular economy is too much focused on a technocratic kind of approach. This is one of the main graph of a visual representation of circular economy that you can find on the web. So as you can see here, there is a very strong emphasis on technology, innovation, of course, recycling technology, science and technology, right? So technology is really the core of circular economy. So behind this idea, there is this idea that technology will save us. We don't need to change the system. We don't need to change the way behavior. We don't need to change the way we consume because we will find a technological solution, right? So this idea is really like founded in this notion of eco-modernism. Eco-modernism is a movement that was born a few years ago in the US, that is based on the following concept, right? The technology will save us. We don't need we don't need a sustainable transition that will include like a transformation of social order. We just need new technology, right? Eco-modernism relies a lot on the notion of free markets, so the market will take care of it. We don't need like a strong reform from the states. Just leave the markets free, and they will adjust. They will fix the problem. In this case, sustainability. So we don't need any planning from the state. No political transformation is required, so we don't need to change the way we manage our democracies. We don't need to involve user in this decision making about what is just, what is fair to be produced and what is not. And there will be always a win-win solution. So we can keep growing by respecting the environment as well. So no worries, keep on growing. Everybody will be fixed by technology. And at least, and finally, my last criticism is that the circular economy is an apolitical discourse. That's questions like who decides what to produce, why to produce, and how to produce. So imagine, for example, that we as a consumer, we don't have anything to say about the way plastic, for example, is produced in China. For example, if I want to buy a toy for my kids, I don't have the right to decide what kind of labor relationship or what kind of labor condition are in place to produce this toy. What kind of safety measure, environmental measure are in place in the factory they produce the toys in China, for example. So there is no relationship between the user and the producer, right? So we as a consumers, we are like merely considered as a client. We cannot decide what to produce and how the things that we are consuming should be produced, right? So here at stake is a fundamental concept of democracy. Should we able to decide the things that I'm consuming, how it's produced or not? And then like going circular will imply a number of political decisions that are totally neglected by the mainstream of circular economy, at least in the academic discourse and in the political discourse of the European Unions. No question like who will wins, who will loses, what impact impact on social relationship, what impact on gender relations, what impact on geopolitics, relation between countries that produce and countries that are merely consumers of producer goods, are totally neglected. And I will give you some clear example, no, of how this idea of circular economy will potentially affect the way we produce stuff. We are living in a globalized economy. So we extract materials from Africa, for example, or from Australia or from Latin America. We ship it to China, and we produce stuff that are sold everywhere, right? So there is like an entire web of relations. If we are going to be circular, so if we are going to close these loops, it's not very clear what's going to happen with this international relationship. For example, take the example of Germany. Germany design a lot of stuff, a lot of products, and then rely on a network, an international network of suppliers. What's going to happen if the European Union say, okay, we have to go all circular? What's going to happen to the sector that will be affected? Because I imagine that, for example, oil producer or plastic producer in China will be drastically affected. What's going to happen with the workers in the sectors? Who is going to compensate them for the job loss, et cetera, et cetera? And one of the probably the striking example of this is the case of our smartphones. No, we paradoxically we are already living in an economy that is circular, because we design in US our iPhones, then we go to Congo and we extract the coltan, which is the basic mineral to produce our chips, microchips. And these are the conditions in which these materials are extracted, basically teenagers or children. Then we ship this material to China. We produce our iPhones in China, and then we ship it to Europe and to US. We use them, and then we eventually dump the e-waste produced by the North in these places. So this is a neighborhood of Accra where 60% of the European e-waste ended up at the end of their life cycle. So we are already, the irony is that we are already living in an economy that's somehow circular. The problem is that this circularity is totally unjust, right? So not everybody here is taking their fair share of the cake, right? So this kind of circularity is nauseous, is negative, and is destructive. So what we propose in the project, we propose of course, to put these arguments, to conceptualize this criticism in a more formal and in a more systematic way, to create a new framework for circular economy that includes responsibility, that includes global social justice, that includes what's going to happen with gender relations, what's going to happen with labor relation if we are going to be circular, right? So this is the organization of the projects. So there will be a first work package based on this conceptual reframing of the notion of circular economy. So this will be pretty much a conceptual framework in which we are going to analyze in details all these criticism that I just presented to you. And then the outcome of this first work package will be like a theoretical map. Okay, so we see that circular economy is lacking all this dimension. Let's see how it's possible to integrate this idea of sustainability with this other dimension. And this work package will feed directly work package number 2 that will be led by the UAB. In this package, we plan to do 10 case studies. Half of the case studies will be conducted in Europe, the other half in Europe, in Africa. And the idea is to look at cases in which this alternative use of circular economy is already in place. So there are people experimenting alternative view of implementing circular economy that are more responsible, more fair, more equitative. And what kind of barriers, what kind of obstacles, and what kind kind of drivers we can learn from these cases. And then the idea is that these cases, we will produce reports, and we will also produce like comparison reports of these 10 cases. So the number of the cases is very the minimum. We are planning also to include more cases. So the outcome of this work package will fit two different work packages. One is work package number 3, that is titled Towards a Framework for Responsible Circular Economy, in which we will try to combine the notion of responsible research of innovation with the idea of circular economy. I don't have time to enter into detail of what a responsible innovation means. If we have some question, we can go into the details after in the question time. And work package number 4, which is in which we aim at producing an integrated decision support system for what we call responsible circular economy. What is that? This is a software that will be freely available online on a web service, in which we offer some guidelines for companies, small, medium enterprise, family company, or big national corporation, or even cooperatives of any kind of institution or organization that want to embrace this idea of as responsible circular economy. So the idea is that they will be able to answer some question about their business model, the way they produce stuff, or the way they deliver services. And through the software, they will be able to do like a self-assessment of the situation in which they found themselves, and then we will show them how they can improve their business model to try to approach this ideal model of responsible circular economy. And finally, this 2 work package will fit the work package number 5 that will be led by the University of Leeds, that aims at developing some policy models for evaluating and planning circular economy practices from a macro economy perspective. So the idea is to experiment a non-mainstream microeconomic model, like a stock flow consistency model, to explore different scenario to produce public policy to foster this idea of a circular economy. Then we have work package number 6, which is dissemination, that will be led by the Agencia de Residuos de Catalunya, and then the management and coordination of the project that will be led by us, the UAB. So finally, I'm just very quick overview of the case studies. We have a very diverse set of case studies spanning from the neighbors that I just showed you in the previous slide in Ghana, where there are kids recycling e-waste like PC, laptop, and smartphones, to cases in Portugal, in Spain, in South Africa, Morocco, in Italy. So you can see here there is a huge variety of sectors and cases. And finally, well, this is like a very screenshot of the focus on the innovation part of the project. Here is the screenshot of the possible decision support system, a very basic. We will work hard to do something better than this. This is a quite miserable picture of the decision support system. We hope to develop something more entertaining and funny from a user perspective. And finally, the UAB involvement. So as I said 1 minute ago, the UAB will lead the project. So we are the coordinator of the projects. This includes coordination of all activities and tasks of the project, maintaining relations with the founder representatives or the European Union, being responsible for the reporting to the founders, the deliverable, and the financial reporting as well. We will contribute to the work package number 1 to define the protocol for the fieldwork. The fieldwork will be basically mainly based on qualitative methods. So it means interviews, probably some ethnographic kind of work. But I also expect to use some quantitative methods if there is the possibility to gather like numerical or statistical data. The UAB team would also lead work package number 2, that is focused on conducting the case studies in Europe and Africa. So we will coordinate the empirical research and we will synthesize the outcome of the case studies. We will also participate in work package number 3, which is the responsible research and innovation part of the projects. And of course, we will also have some person months in the work package number 4 and 5. So this is the overview of the person months of the project. It means that if some of you are interested more in the macroeconomics modeling of the project, or more into, decision support system, or, I know that in the department there is a huge experience in the contact with companies. So maybe we can draw on the expertise in the department to work also on these aspects of the projects. So I think that's all